Chicago's police watchdog agency officially has a new leader. City Council members yesterday confirmed Andrea Kersten, the mayor's pick to lead the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. Kersten has served as the interim head of COPA since last year, but her approval through council was mired by some months of controversy. After her nomination in November, 20 alderpeople had signed a letter opposing Kersten due to a disciplinary recommendation of a slain Chicago police officer. And Andrea Kersten joins us now. Congratulations, Andrea. Did you expect your confirmation to take this long?
Well, thank you, first of all, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The work of this agency often elicits really strong responses on sort of all sides of issues surrounding police reform. So while I certainly didn't predict that my confirmation would take the path that it did, the level of public interest and engagement and strength of opinions regarding our work is certainly nothing new to me or anyone that's engaged in this work at COPA.
And today is your first day on the job as the official chief administrator of COPA. Why did you want this job?
That's a great question. So I've actually been with the agency since September of 2016. As someone who served as a Cook County State's attorney here in Chicago, and also as an advocate, kind of working in the criminal justice system on behalf of survivors of physical abuse and violence previously, I've always been very committed to service in furtherance of our systems of justice. And so, when the opportunity arose to participate in the rebuilding of this police accountability agency back in 2016, as it transitioned from what was then the Independent Police Review Authority to what is now COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, I felt compelled to really come and lend my skills and expertise to these complicated issues. And I believe strongly in our systems of justice, but I'm also not blind to their brokenness, and I intend to continue being a part to contributing to efforts to improve the system so it's equitable and fair for everyone.
And one of those complicated issues is something that we already mentioned, the debate that was surrounding your appointment and confirmation. It stemmed from the inclusion of the slain Chicago police officer, Ella French, keeping her name in the report that recommended discipline for the wrongful raid on Anjanette Young's home. That report was released after French's death. And here's a little bit of that debate from yesterday.
We need to hold everybody accountable. That goes from the madam that sits at the top of that chair to the bottom person. And so I really want you all to think about, I did feel like it was insensitive when it came out because she had just died. But I did understand that it's our responsibility and our duty. I sometimes think we forget who we work for. We are paid to represent the people in our community.
And that's Alderperson Jeanette Taylor, who did, in the end, vote in favor of your confirmation. But what is your reaction to the critics who say that it was insensitive and to all that was being said about that report?
So first and foremost, I think it's always been really important, and something that I've been making a concerted effort to do is really correct the public information on the timing of this disciplinary recommendation and the release of the report. Of course, I think it should be widely known at this point that that recommendation was made in April, and the report was finalized with that recommendation for discipline against Officer French months before her tragic death in the line of duty. And the release of the report is governed, both the timing of the release and the nature in which the report was released is governed by our ordinance and FOIA laws, as well as the consent decree. So, with respect to the emotional sentiments surrounding it, I share in that. I mean, and I've made lots of public comments to the extent that I am troubled by the fact that our work in any way contributed to the further hurt of a grieving family. However, I have an obligation to, when trying to fulfill our transparency obligations, following the letter of the law that prescribes how we do the job that we do. That's what took place here with the inclusion of her name in that report months after her death. And I'm working with City Council now to revisit whether some of these rules should be or need to be changed. And I've also, made many public statements and have reached out to the police department about changing the way in which officers' families are notified about something like this. COPA has spent the last 5 years really developing empathetic processes by which we help civilians whose lives are impacted by our transparency obligations, specifically preparing them for the release of materials, making sure they have sort of the dignity to experience what's going to be made very public about their private lives, making sure they see that information before it becomes public information. And I want to make sure that our officers and their families, particularly a Gold Star family, has the same dignity afforded to them. And I look forward to working with the police department and other city entities to make sure that that happens going forward.
Yeah, because, for example, you have endorsed a proposed ordinance that would redact the names of slain officers from those publicly released reports. But before we let you go and before we run out of time, since its establishment in 2016, do you think that COPA has improved public trust in regards to accountability for police officers?
I think bit by bit, we're doing that, every day. Our work really has tried to focus on increased investigative integrity. That was something that the Department of Justice report in 2017 was extremely critical of with our predecessor agency. So I think, the level of detail and the thoroughness with which we approach this work has really improved, and that shows in the scrutiny that these reports receive over time, and our ability to stand up to that scrutiny. And then additionally, I think our transparency efforts are also of paramount importance in building public trust. In fact, they're a bedrock of public trust. Not everyone's going to agree with an outcome, but at least providing the public with information surrounding these critical incidents, I think is the starting place and sort of a non-negotiable for us as a city as we try to build trust across our systems of public safety.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. Andrea Kersten, first day on the job as a brand new COPA Chief Administrator. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.